Hello there! I'm Squire Callahan Ridgeborn, almost a battle master, always a wizard, and tonight I'm joined by
Lord Benatar Ulfgar, Paragon Healer, where love is the battlefield, and he walks it with honor.
Benatar, a Paragon Healer of the Rising Winds. Benatar, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm very glad to be here and thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. So, this is part of the Healer double feature. We have you and Waldorf's video coming out at the same time. That's kind of nuts. Now, I don't know what order people are going to watch these in. So, in my real life, you are going second. You're getting recorded after Waldodorf has gone on Tuesday. Today's Thursday. Can you, before we get started, tell me a little bit about why we're doing a double feature today?
Actually, very glad that we're doing a double feature because Waldorf and I have a very long history with Healer now. We just straight linked up one day and we just started doing everything we possibly could in tandem. And I'm just guessing by this being a double feature that other people kind of see us as working as a pair a lot or something of that matter. I've said it once, I'll say it again, I'll say it 1,000 times. I wouldn't be a Paragon Healer for my fun little rivalry and camaraderie with Waldorf because we just built off each other so much and we still goof off and do things together on the field whenever we can catch each other.
I think it's so cool that you guys were able to work on your lists and really come up the ladder together. So that's something that I think is a fairly unique experience, and I'm excited to dive more into that as we get through our interview today. So, diving right in, how did you start in Amtgard?
So Amtgard was a very awkward start for me back in the day. I started back in 2016 and my brother-in-law just kept poking at me like, "Hey, get out of the house. You're absolutely miserable there and just come out and play in this park for a while." And I was okay, whatever, man. I guess I'll go be social. And then everybody's playing knights and wizards in a grass field and beating the snot out of each other with foam bats. And between all of the creative outlets that this game offers and just the depth of casting and more and all kinds of chances for shenanigans, like I got hooked.
What's your favorite kind of battle game?
So my favorite kind of battle game, I unfortunately haven't seen as much as I really desire, but one day I hope. But it's pretty well anything with a larger field and a more narrow center focus that has a touch of spread out areas that allow you to have some real concentrated fighting and a real meat grinder, people to just dive into and just go nuts. But also things are just spread out enough to where you can't just hard shut out your enemy's team and just ruin the fun for everybody. And this allows for lots of flanking, small unit tactics, and more than enough room for shenanigans and people to have their own little individual hero moments. There was one that Air made for an Evan March event a couple of years ago. It had just this massive pit that was basically designed like an hourglass, and
Ooh.
everyone was contesting that hourglass and like moving. I want to say it was like a bucket from one side to the other, and it was just a wonderful grind and lots of just team play. It was just so much fun.
Okay. What made you start playing healer?
So I started playing healer around 2022, and I noticed that there were typically less than 3 healers on the field at any given time, and people just really did not want to do that. And I was dabbling in what was the new paladin at the time, since finally unlocked for us all. I was like, well, you know what? I could probably do that job and fill that need. And I ended up falling in love with it.
What made you fall in love with healer?
So, healer is a class that, of course, lets you just keep putting people back in the fight, back in the game, just over and over again, whether you're releasing them or you're resurrecting them and telling them, hey, go die another glorious death, or go try and have more fun. because to me, there's fewer better feelings than seeing someone's eyes light up whenever you're just sauntering your way towards them. And they go, "Oh, thank God, I can play more," and being in ice ball jail for 5 minutes out of a game. But healer is also a class that allows you to play in a pretty wide variety of ways that are unlikely to upset the balance of a game or just outright ruin an enemy player's time by like just shutting them out. A lot of your stuff is just, I'm gonna pester you to death rather than I point and click and you're dead, or point and click, you can't play.
Okay. What do you think makes healer unique as a class?
Healer is very unique in the way that it's a lot of its abilities, if not most of its kit, of course, outside of enchantments, are just chargeable across the board, and you have a lot of lives.
Mm.
And you can just sit and charge so much of your spells during a game that you can honestly get to a point, and I've had a lot of those points lately, where I actually just want to die so I don't have to charge anymore. Like, just please
Okay.
let me have a break. I'll take the respawn time to actually breathe and get all my perk. The juiciest little bit that we get alongside this very chargeable kit is that we uniquely get the metamagic innate per life, and innate lets you recharge a anything that's chargeable just instant.
Right.
And having that per life whenever your entire list can be chargeable is a godsend.
Yeah. Especially because innate is such a strong ability to have it per life. If you've got those refreshes that you need to recharge, just instantly get them back.
Yeah, the other kind of tandem unique thing along with that innate being per life is that you can get a little bit creative by taking the experienced metamagic and throwing it on something like Greater Relief, or now we finally have access to Dispel Magic at a decent rate. And you can then have those be chargeable times 10. However, by comboing that with innate, you essentially turn that per refresh spell into per life if you
Yeah.
or use steal life, but either way.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, steal life is also per life, so
Yeah, it's all about your positioning, but still, it's just one of those things where it feels a little bit like cheating the system just a skosh, because
I think
it
that's
just
part of
feels
the
really good.
fun of healer though, is getting to like each of the casters has one thing that it gets to break, and I feel like that's the part of the healer breaking kit that makes it so fun and unique.
I agree.
What are some of the ways that healer overlaps with the other classes?
So healer has effective overlap with, excuse me, pardon. It has effective overlap with each of the casters in primarily the support spells like mend, heal, release, etc. And its specialty lies a little bit more in just your basic release, unlimited heal, and excuse me. Then it overlaps with your very basic crowd control spells of shove, hold person, entangle, and ice ball. The like. The rub of it is that we basically get every spell that makes you just kind of grumble like you just stubbed your toe, rather than
Mm,
great, I've really got to have someone rescue me from this, because like hold person is mostly an inconvenience for everyone involved. And
right.
of course, with a third to like half of the game is immune to command, just not going to. You get really inconvenienced by all of that command immunity on top.
Yeah, command
Uh,
immunity feels like because you've got four classes with either full or partial command immunity, right? Paladin, anti-paladin, barbarian are fully immune to command. You've got monk, which is just immune to all of the verbals. So that doesn't, And then you have druid, which most of the time is using lycanthropy if they're playing selfish druids. So you've got six classes that have pro command readily available, and if you want to throw scout in there too, they can choose command. I don't feel like you'd see them pick command all that often because command is such an unused school right now. The immunity problem continues to be a theme that I see over and over again through these interviews.
Yeah, it's ultimately just because we have so much built into it. There's a few examples that could probably just be shifted over from one school to another, and with just a little bit of mental gymnastics for the fluff of it, and then quintuple checking with those who are much higher involved in understanding the balance of things could make sure that that's kept in a good check and balance so we don't accidentally make something like next thing. But
yeah,
that's a
I've been arguing for a while that we should change the immunities that the different marshals get. I think Barbarian should just be blanket immune to Frozen. Paladin should only be pro Death. AP should be only pro Flame, and then Warrior should actually be pro Command. I think that's more sympathetic.
I kind of like that because like there's too many little things where you'll have like a barbarian being described as like the can't stop, and then they get just pelted with something. They're like, no, that actually stops you.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, but we can't fix that here. So,
No.
what roles on the field does healer fill really well?
So healer fill pretty well the overall just kind of glue that holds together as a very basic, because they are the ones first and foremost being relied on release and keep moving, then keeping players up, playing through heal and res. We may only have essentially a 2 HP, 2 wounds to a death, but it's still something we can juicy little kit. And specific roles, you can pretty well backline to whatever degree that you are comfortable and that you're kind of simultaneous, just depending on how you build. You sit back on larger games and just resurrect people. You can pretty well just run around like a golden retriever, finding anyone and everyone just idling around and release them, run off and go save somebody else. Or you can get right into the meat of the fight, pretty much like 5 feet behind your armor, and you can support them breaking up an enemy battle, very surgical placement, and just lost it. But pretty much you can be reactive with your support by moving status and resurrecting, or you can be proactive in overwhelming with just waves of players that are enchanted by playing like Warder. But Healer also gives you a almost unique golden opportunity because it is a class designed to make you to be a step fight most of the time, because you have no armor, you have virtually no self-enchant from like a rogue throwy coming in from left field. So you have to watch the flow of the fight to make sure that you're not going to get pinched by like a flanking assassin, because if you fall and like your warriors in front of you ice ball or something, then they can't turn around and soak hits, or your team can't react quickly enough. Next thing, line is just decimated. Well, your main support,
right?
If this makes sense.
That makes good sense. Yeah, healer has a lot of versatility to it that you wouldn't necessarily see at the surface level.
Kind of early, or not so much early on. I would say probably a third to halfway through my healing journey, I began to notice that, kind of like how you said, where it really doesn't seem that deep, but it's kind of like the best way I could describe it is that you're pretty much looking at a pool of water. You can see clearly that it's all shallow in here. and like that's as far as it goes. And then you move a couple pieces, next thing you know, there's a cavern underneath for you to really sink your teeth into and find out that there's so many more layers to this class than just, hey, healing spell, hey, resurrect, hey, release, and ice ball.
Okay.
But that more so just comes from the application from it all rather than a surface look at the spell.
That makes a lot of sense. We've talked a lot about the different things that healer can do on the field. What is your favorite healer spell?
So I have a personal favorite, a quirky little thing called Sever Spirit. It is my personal little pet spell that I always carry because it covers the other half of Dispel Magic. And I get a kind of petty little giggle from using Sever Spirit on Paladin because it is one of the only ways to actually curse them. And it confuses every Paladin that you use it on. They're like, "You mean I'm cursed? That's death." I'm like, "Oh, buddy, Spirit, you get cursed, you lose your enchants." But it's also a wonderful counter healer ability because it counters the being able to enchants in general, and it creates a just nice little concrete block for them to stumble over by cursing the player, because then they can't summon dead, and they have to and deal with that at minimum within 20 feet by greater because curse is really just a speed bump for healers, but forcing every healer to deal with that is going to slow them down a bit. And it's also a decent counter to because it completely disables them from being able to a player with their very basic support kit.
Right, because Monk can't res through Cursed. Which healer spell do you like the least?
So kind of how I mentioned it a little bit earlier, a little bit of theming, I don't particularly like Ice Ball most of the time, which, yeah, it's pretty well the most powerful spell in our game, and you can literally keep people ever doing anything. But there's not many things I hate more than even just telling my opponent, no, you can't play the game, or even die for a whole minute. And I could just sit here and pray. It's 58 seconds and that right there has ruined for people's experiences I could count. And I've done enough in the past with Druid of ruining a park day. So I try not to even use park unless I'm very specifically trying to practice a tactic like staggering out a line to force support players to move forward to see if I can't get my team to capitalize on mixed results. But I might also sometimes use it for scouts or other casters I know taking release and being able to support and counter, but I'm still not going to go Bridge Wars. I will also do a little bitty soft cheat here for this question, and I will call out my second place least favorite in Blessed Aura, because it's straight up just the appendix of the healer list. It could disappear overnight and no one would really notice. Like there's virtually never a reason outside of some really niche quest interaction that Blessed Aura would have like almost any value, because like a literal home puck, be it built to the most minimum specs, could get carried on the wind and do a level 5 enchantment. Hysterically bad. But if they reworked it to be like where we had the V9 enchantments, or not enchantments, the V9 resistance, where you could kind of choose where it popped, then it would be very much worth something. But as
level 5 spell point, and even if you could,
because like I feel like if it was level 5, like in that level 5 to 6, you kind of wiggle in the kind of violating the, because by God, Druid does it all the time.
Okay,
but yeah, that's it on that.
When you're playing healer, do you buy equipment?
Almost always. I pretty well constantly will take a single short, and most often I will take a medium shield. And that is more so to keep me from getting plinked by an arrow out of nowhere rather than like anything else. Because as a healer, you have to watch those blind spots, those funny 5-degree angles, because you have assassins or archers like Saladin find that and wait for that slightest lapse in concentration, then you're just getting peppered all through that area.
How do you build your spell balls?
So my spell balls are a little bit on the unique side. I happen to have one right here. So this design right here, I got from my Overbuilt Subutai, and it's literally just a little kind of squarish brick of yarn clippings, and they're roughly 1.5 to 2 inches, better part of 2 inches long, and then kind of reinforced with a little bit of tape. And the fun thing is that it makes this wonderful little square shape that gives you a perfect bit of grip along the and creates a nice little shape for your fingers to grip.
Oh.
And it holds so incredibly well in a lacrosse glove. And then the other little thing I do is right here where I've wrapped, like where you would put the hair tie, I reinforce that with a little bit of cloth tape, and then I put a hair tie on it. I've done a lot of builds in the past where I try to do bandoliers and flip systems. Those kind of have been just more of a money pit than successful, but Healer doesn't terribly need that many. But the fun thing is that one punch, I've got my strap, I will put the loop here in my pinky, and then whenever I need it, I just pull it, it comes loose, nice and perfect. And then all I have to worry about keeping up with it is just curl my. And I can put as many spell balls, I can put like roughly 3 spell balls in before it's getting, and then I might also take my more round and just like straight up jam it into a pocket punch shield. Because if I do that on like the back of my hand, my fist is going to keep that spell ball in place. And then my second little build is this little guy.
Oh.
And so this one is not a personal build. This one bought from Lancer Armory. And it doesn't seem like he sells these little guys, which kind of makes me. But this is my favorite little build for a spell ball that I need to get in a very specific location, because it's basically 2 halves of a stress ball on either side here, and or the nice little nougaty center here is a little puck of like non-hardening silicone for weight, and it's got some cross-linked foam as a band around it, and it's smushed together, and it's going out the back end of this stress ball half, and a little rope to just be a nice little. And it looks really cool, and I really like it because this is like the jam in the shield or something. I just hold in my fingers like this, because like a tomahawk like this, and just send it.
I really like that as your spell ball, because I don't think it technically requires the tail to be the same color as the ball, and that just looks really nice with the 2 colors there. I really like that.
Yeah, like this rope part, like I fell in love with it. I was like, man, he was selling these like $10 a piece. I'm like, that's a bit much to do a spell ball that you just do balled up socks and a t-shirt. But I was like, I gotta know how you built these, so I'm gonna buy several and use some and dissect others. So eventually I hope to be able to recreate these and like share with others.
Yeah.
If he doesn't have too much problem with that.
Well, if he discontinued the product, he can't complain too much.
Yeah. But a little nugget for Healer in particular, to have your spell ball be different shapes, because whenever you're in that real heat of competition, really in that zone, you want to be able to just grab what you need and just feel that it's the correct ball and then send it along with that incant. Because there's few things more embarrassing than charging up an ice ball, somebody's barreling towards you, and you just go, aha! And you realize, as it's bouncing off of them, that it's the wrong color.
Oh no.
And then you get to stand there and just look like a total goof with egg on your face, and they're just looking at you like, do I take that? And I'm like, please, for the love of God, no. I'll just die. I'm dying of embarrassment here. You win.
Okay. Yeah, I've unfortunately been in that boat. The worst is when you throw your best spell ball from like a foot away and you just absolutely whiff it.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing is like these two builds here have a like wonderful bit of weight that they go almost wherever I want them to, and unless I just release way too early and it just goes straight off into the weeds, then I'm going to hit because it's not really going to have all those problems that a tiny little stress ball you could gently blowing.
Okay. Are there any weird rules interactions that healers have?
Depending on what kingdom you're in right now, this will have slightly different answers because we're in playtest period.
Mm-hmm.
And with us in the all new rules at the moment, we have so fewer interactions that are confusing and nightmare inducing to try and explain. And like this would have been a list that would have been like 5 to 6 spells long, and now it's, in my opinion, and it's really just kind of, well, that's a little funky, rather than needing a clarifications page that's just as long as the book itself. And that one in particular was Circle of Protection, and now it's just kind of an odd one with kind of funky wording that honestly I'm still working to understand the new version to a degree, because I'm kind of taking a soft break from Healer since Bridge Wars, but I ultimately right now just use it as anywhere from 1 to 5 person shadow step and greater release at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it's got some funny wording, and I'll eventually get the kind of wonkiest one that we have at the moment is, and it's Mass Heal.
Oh, Mass Heal. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I said the wrong one. But Mass Heal is a wonky enchantment get at level 6 that lets you just get 5 little yellow enchant strips, and you can then just cast the heal spell for all but free. And thanks to its weird wording where it makes it to where it's a little bit like Elemental, where you can just keep using the ability until, of course, you run out of those 5 uses. But I can't remember the exact wording of it, but it lets you cast it while moving. You don't need free hand to use the Mass Heal, and you can also do it while you're suppressed.
Oh, okay.
And I could be a little bit off on that, but it's one of those very funky ones.
Well,
but the best way I've figured out to imagine it, explain it, Mass Heal isn't really you casting the spell. You just basically take a goblin and you put him on your shoulders, and he's got 5 either smacks over your head to heal you, or he reaches down and smacks whoever is healing or whoever is getting healed.
So yeah, it's similar to Elemental Barrage in that it's not an actual casting, it's a replacement effect. So
yeah,
that's why I can get around suppression. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely a weird one that people should know about. So
yeah, it's especially good if you're a like stick dork who's trying to get into casting, because you can use it on yourself while you're fighting and actively getting wounded. And like it's a limited resource, but you can do some really funny.
because you could take, oh, it's max 1. That makes it less fun. You could still get 2 with Warder, but
No, actually, Warder doubles protection, and that one is Spirit. Yeah, it's a little bit of a sad noises type thing, but you can use persistent on it and keep those uses so you don't just walk out, have a mass heal, ready to go, and be good old Jimmy Healer, and I'm ready to save my friends, and just an arrow. So you're like, persistent gives you that little extra mileage.
Okay. I feel like that wouldn't be that broken to allow for more purchases of mass healing, but okay.
Yeah. Some part of my brain says me it might have been higher in the past, but they've been steadily over this playtest period just like hamstringing use enchantments. So I'm happy that it's staying at 5, and I'm just gonna sit with my little goblin on my shoulders and we're gonna both have a good time.
Fair enough. Okay. So healer is ubiquitous as the archetypal support class, right? Like it supports everyone else. How can other people best support healers?
So the best way that you can support your healers, the absolute creme de la creme of helping us, is be a battery. My God, if you're a battery bar, you're near me, and you say that you have Song of Power, because I am constantly charging. I constantly need restoration or something. Anything to keep me, I can always use.
Absolutely.
Like you can always offer to give your healers little chance just being just one shot. Anything like Dark Skin, Blessings, like you name it, we love it. Beyond that, one of the best things to help us is take just a tiny bit of point out, hey, this person, because we might be just right in the sauce and spot everyone. So even just a short arc, or like, hey, for the love of God, get that paladin up, and like, yes, please, because they can help me, they can help everyone.
Yeah.
And beyond that, if you see a healer alone, try to, especially if you just kind of float around about 20 around us and just kind of shoo enemies away. Just be a body in the way to keep the healer from just getting run over. They're like busy resurrecting or something of the sort.
Okay. What is an enchantment that you will always say yes to?
Like I mentioned, I will always say yes to even something as simple as I like magic armor most of the. Personally, I get that I have it more than any other for some funny reason, and really funny because I used to play ages. But while I'm a healer, I'm just like, no, I'm just gonna die. But magic armor, anything that gives us, and especially to keep us from getting break suppressed, and e-soul is a great thing to handshake. Personally, I would love to try and you get some mileage out of touched, because people are kind of starting to, like, some actually starting and give it to people out at Kingdom Fields, and I'd love to see what goofy things I could get into that.
So, what is healer as a class weak to?
Probably our biggest kryptonite is the insult spell, because everything else outside of like stunned, frozen, being, we can just self-release. Like, oh no, you hit me with a pinning arrow, cool. You hit my shield with a destruction arrow, cool. Like, oh no, like you cursed me, oh cool, greater release. But if a warrior or a bard or somebody just insults me, I can't self-release from that. I have to go run and get someone to get me out of that state, because basically 3/4 of my kit is now dead. And especially if you have a bard who is insulting you, whatever you're going to try and counteract them with, they can just sing a song, leave you just sitting on arms, and you're just a sitting duck with them. Let's see, beyond that, general matchups like with bards and wizards are a very steady, solid counter to break con, because outside of iceballing you in time or something like that. Like, you got one line, we got nothing. We're now stick dork. Then outside of that, pretty much pally, anti-pally, barbar, and scouts are a little bit of a rough fight. And generally,
Anybody wearing armor is going to be tough to beat for an unarmored person.
I will say there is a funny exception to that with warrior, because while the warrior might be able to insult you, unless he's got like, actually no, we could counter imbue shield now that we have dispel at level 4, but this fun little thing ignores their armor.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll also go through ancestral armor. Unless they've got, then you can tell them, like, no, you don't come at me. Like, I've actually gotten air to take a pause whenever she's to me through. I just hold all. Being able to stop air at all is a pretty great feeling. And then the last thing that is a good counter to healer, now that assassins have, is that trigger doesn't apply here, but you can give a healer fits, just drive them absolutely batty by going in and out of insub and just pressuring them, because your exit incant is just 2 lines. Most of our spells to deal with are 3, and you can just do this song and dance. If you're keeping a healer stuck, stammer deal with you, winning. Like, the healer is on such a higher tier. This person needs to be playing and like supporting their team, that if you just get them stuck and you are just a gadfly pestering the far out of, you win, even if you're not killing. Like, you keep a healer in place, it's great. And I love to hate it, because especially here in the Rising Wind, a lot of the assassins used to just be like, oh, I'm going to away, and learning this tactic. And it's not a great time for healers right now, and I love to hate it.
Yeah, assassins they seem to be on an upswing. How do you overcome those weaknesses?
So the best thing that a healer can do to overcome all of these weaknesses, honestly, especially my personal favorite, paladin, that is just within like a good 10 to 15 feet from you, because they can really apply that pressure to get most of the classes to just go and leave you alone. If you die and get cursed by an assassin or something, then they can just greater res you. That is just a gold standard. Beyond that, you just have to learn how and to assault those classes kind of from secondary, where you catch them in any lapse in concentration. Because like, if it's say like me and Dart head to head and he's playing wizard, I've got no shot, because he can suppress me, he can freeze me, he can do anything he wants the time it takes for me to get one spell off. But if he is even at all distracted, I have a chance.
Right, changes the math on that.
Yeah, like, healer is not the one that you want to constantly try to be the with aggressive casting. Okay. Kit's just not quite made for that. It's possible, but you're fighting an uphill battle.
So it's more about picking your moment than seizing every moment.
Then beyond that, your best tools are just your feet, run away. There's no shame in that. The healer that lived and didn't have to spend a minute respawning is a minute they're still doing their job. And then your other tools are a nice swift teleport, or even a swift astral dimension, and then banishing yourself. And the banish is an especially fun one, because it's still a vault. So you can exit before you get to spawn. And Hajj is one that has used that to fiendishly good, and to be able to pull some shenanigans like that myself.
So can you talk to me a little bit about how healer plays differently at a kingdom level versus a park level?
So healer is a class that scales better with bigger games, longer games, and bigger fields. It can really struggle in those really small and tight settings like a 5v5, Battle Master tourneys, or really anything that has timer or things with really quick respawn. Most of your tools then just down. You got your basic releases and everything, but almost any just better off playing something like Bard or Wizard that has those quick, explosive, high impact kill spells. And then the other thing is that in those smaller games like 5v5 or it's like 7v7, kind of once you get to like that 8 to 10, it starts evening out. But in those smaller numbers, it gets really rough for the healer because it becomes a game of whack-a-mole for the enemy team. Because if you splat that enemy healer, your caster has free reign. And then, yeah, the longer the timers and further away respawn is, the more valuable healers become. And then at Park, you're probably going to lean a little to just kind of general support, being a pocket healer, stick dork. Or you can actually do some really at just Park as you just open the enemy team range. They can dispel unless everybody's playing like Wizard and Scout. And then at Kingdom, the game is your oyster. You can play at whatever you can. Usually, to sometimes find all the minions.
Because you can have up to 5 undead minions, right?
Correct. And most of the time, you can struggle to find. My very first keep on the Borderlands, I managed to get. Just felt awesome because they were just running to me dead. I was starting up the incant, they tag and they go right back in the break. But yeah, you just have a much wider and more fruitful area to play in larger games.
So what do you think the minimum equipment is needed to play healer?
Pretty much with all of the casters have some success by coming out with a sash and using your mod. You're not required to have gear, but by God, is it going to be far more helpful at least have a shield to keep from getting sniped, because at Kingdom, boy, do people love using arrows. And the sword, if absolutely nothing else, it's there to have a physical threat on hand. And if you can at least make stop and for a second, that should I go up against big and the guy's pretty tall and lanky, might get a lucky, then anything to keep you from being a speed bump and scavenge points is a win.
Okay. That makes good sense. Spell lists for a minute. How do you build your spell lists?
So I typically will run as much chargeable and per life casting as I can, because I want my kit to be as sustainable as possible and make it to where like I don't need a per refresh to like keep doing my job. Like per refreshes are like their dessert. They are not my main meal. I like to run as much sustainable casting as I can, because I can always find a good 7 to 8 seconds to charge something.
Yeah.
I can always find some time to just and then beyond that, I kind of have a set of spells that I will pick virtually every single ever that I found. Because if you're not picking those spells, why did you choose to play healer instead of? It's just mostly things just res, summon, release, and all that jazz. You expect every healer to be able to do nothing awkward than going, hey, get that guy up, and you take res. I take summon, just give you the funny.
Yeah, if you find a healer that doesn't have res, like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, and I've also had some really funny moments where like I finally get to play with like Subutai on my team because like anytime we play together, like I can't ever be on his team and it drives me nuts. And the one day I got to play with him at an Eben March event, I was practicing using a lot more situational awareness and trying. And next thing I know, dead a good 75 off in the field, picking people apart. And how did you even get? And I'm like, I can't help you, buddy. And like since then, dead. Those really wonky situations of how did you get there? Why did you die there? Okay, get over here. Keep.
Okay. What are those rechargeable spells that healer gets that you think are essential?
So my essentials are, of course, resurrect.
Mhm.
Let me pull this up real quick. Just so I do my due diligence as a healer. So the chargeables that I always take release because there's never a game where you're not going to use it and need plenty of them. Sever Spirit is, of course, my favorite little pet spell because there are times you don't have the time to get that Dispel Magic recharged or something of that sort, and Sever Spirit is per life.
Right.
And it's a wonderful counter to like a stat because they can spend that good seconds the second they're dead, and I couldn't get Dispel, have an answer, and I'm going to make that very sad beat.
Like, as someone who gets rechargeable Dispel, there is something satisfying about hitting a large pile of enchantments all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And the golem stacks, I think, have become less popular over time. I certainly don't see them very often anymore. Just fun to hit them and really just, take away all of those enchantments and see that look of like,
Yeah, it makes the druid player just feel so great about burning like 5 per refreshes just for you to just take a per life and wipe it out.
well, druids do deserve less. Oh, you disagree?
Oh no. I am full in the druid needs a full overhaul because like there's so many things that like we have more concerns with trying to change the game and balance because of all of the weird things that druid does to break them than we do having to like balance bard or healer. And like wizard is generally I do things, you stop, you die.
Right.
And wizard or druid does, but I also get this. I get this, and I'm the second best at everything in the game.
Right. Like the thing about wizard is the best DPS verbal class in the game because like a wizard specifically punishes you for having dared to be in a state nearby them and also happens to put you in states. And so like the kill combos are there and they're really strong, but wizard has very little defense without teamwork, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that wizard can get is ward self, and ward self is terrible for a laundry list of reasons. But druid being able to self enchant with avatar of nature and then as an avatar of nature walk around with icy blast per life, and like, yeah, you don't get to shatter them when you're done, but also, do you need to? Like,
Yeah, I love just how. Sorry. I love how bards, healers, and wizards can all have their like healer tangle, wizard drags block, the healer does astral intervention, does, and then bard can do so many similar overlaps, and then you just got druid where it has the its power spikes in the most wonky ways, and it gets the best of whatever it is in that class, and that creates a real mess for balance. And ever since I discovered playing Druid and you do Icy Blast, a couple of Ice Balls, you experience Icy Blast. You can make, say, your park day started, everybody's cool by 12:30 because it was actually playing because you were just freezing them the entire time.
Yeah, and that's really the problem with Frozen at Park more than Druid. But I think we've gotten off into the weeds a little bit. Let's try to circle back and talk about Healer. Talk about today. I'd like to talk to you about the archetypes for a minute here. So first, I want to get your thoughts on Priest. What do you think about Priest?
Priest was my first real dig into the archetypes, and it does the core of Healer better than anything. Mm-hmm. It does all of the healing, all of the resurrecting, and it just lets you do as much of that because it makes meta magics chargeable, but it just creates a hugely kit that lets you just completely turn off your brain once you have those incantations. I'm on a big keep. This is my first event. Take Priest and just ambulant up good old res and start meandering about and slap somebody with a res and go on your way, and you just keep on keeping on. However, you do have to watch out. Little clause in it that makes it to where you can't use innate on. You have to watch what you're using in because your meta magics.
Right.
And then, of course, you can't do something like swift teleport. You have to little bit creative. But the one thing I really don't Priest is it will show you the very irony of the line in the charge in can. I take some time to catch my breath because when I play Priest, like I'm going to be out of breath and I'm going to need a nice break after that game just to like slug some water and just keep my lungs from burning so much.
Absolutely. Okay, so that was Priest. Why don't you talk to me a little bit about Warder? Tell me what Warder's up to.
Warder is the one I have overall because I enjoy more of the reactive and just counteracting what the enemy does. But Warder is a really great one if you want to just create that good old bubble around each and every player and really frustrate people and having to think of like, all right, how do I either work around God Wizard because this Warder just put up like 10 e-souls across the and that needs to not be a thing.
Right.
But the rub of it is that while something like persistent are very heavily limited, your because it keeps you from using your verbals and taking ranged offensive verbals at that. You can, however, take shove. So I like taking 3 to 5 shoves on my war because I need something. Because you're ultimately relying on your team to be that pushing force. Once you're those refresh enchant, maybe some blessing against wound.
That's going to be rough. Okay.
It's a bit of a rough feeling, but when strategically placed, it's backbreaking for the other team.
Right. So the thing that you're probably best known for is playing Necromancer. Why don't you tell us about that?
Good to know. So Necromancer is the real meat and potatoes of my style because you can just overwhelm your enemy with just waves of corpses. Sure, those waves are only 1 to 5 people at a time, but it's still a constant churn of just meat into the grinder. And like there's nothing funnier for somebody with just 5 new added real anime goofiness. Like there was nothing that sold me harder on healer and stick was just really in the groove blender. And one of my newbies came up to me, oh my gosh, I can't what do I even do? Like, hey buddy, strip, high five me here, and I come right back to me. And he did, and I was like, said the resurrection in can for, and I go, all right, now go back out there, don't care about dying, and just go get him, champ. And he just gave me this real funny look. I'm like, don't care if you die, see if you, or even kill him. And he ran up, he did some really goofy anime, and he killed the stick dork. And he came back to his face just lit up so it was so awesome. And I'm like, yes, you did, and I am so proud. Since then, like I've just locked in for healer because that was just a gold moment.
How much of a boost is the because undead minion used to be suppressed and now they're not suppressed, but the raise dead spell suppresses for 30 seconds.
Yep.
How has that made it much easier to get undead minions in your experience, or?
Oh, significantly, because back before the latest change to Undead Minion, where they combined the things into one,
Mm-hmm.
it used to be regular Undead Minion where they were cursed, fragile, and suppressed.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of someone doing some really niche and very intentional, the second you say you're fragile and suppressed, someone say like, "How dare you say those two words to me? I came out here to play a game."
Yeah,
And
that's
you could not get anybody to ever take the regular undead minion. And then greater undead minion was just like you pretty much grabbed the monks who like battle masters and warlords who came to just turn their brain off and fight nerds with pool noodles at keep or something like that, and that was almost the only way you could get minions. But now people are really digging into it because now that suppression is only temporary and you can release that, and that is
yeah.
awesome.
The last Kingdom event that we had, and that was dumb shenanigan-y fun because I could just run up, and I was still playing wizard. I was still doing my exact same thing. I just had the ability to immediately go and respawn, and it was great.
Yeah, it's just so much friendlier from both a game standpoint, and it's so much friendlier to newbies and whatnot to explain it to them,
Mm-hmm.
because rather than telling them, hey, you go up, you declare this, where you get like this, go in sub, and then if anybody casts tracking, banish, or dispel on you, then you die, and they just stare at you like a goat, and you're just like, just go die and come back to me. And now it actually kind of works like that. The worst thing that I absolutely guarantee most people is in the old undead minion, necromancer died while the minion, technically they were supposed to all of the enchants reset, and that's cool from a fluff standpoint, but we're not playing an MMO cascade. You see the necromancer smote by the paladin and all minions fall to dust. We're people, we're not going to track all of that, and we have a hard time remembering that we even have an enchant. Eliminating that overhead is great. And then lastly, my personal favorite of the change, Raise Dead, is because there's nothing I love more than like a quick, dirty, get back in there chant and keep having fun. Because I've had a couple of players where I keep, and particularly like moving their feet and making it to where I can't pick them up. So being able to just reach out and grab that player and just be like, rise and fight again a few really quick times, like turn them around and say, you get back out there and fight.
Yeah.
instead of just complicating my day is great, because people are going to do their things, but like just being able to keep sending people in the fight more. Sorry, I'm rambling.
Okay.
Oh man, like
Yeah.
when
Send it
when
back.
when I get onto things like healer, oh boy, will I chatter.
Okay.
But
Um,
yeah,
I want to ask you a couple of Paragon questions because you're in the circle of Paragons now. So, what is something that a healer can do to really stand out to the circle of Paragons?
so just kind of full transparency, we're in a bit of a funny new era of the Paragon board, from what I can see, where we're doing our best to kind of dispel like this illusion where it's just a bunch of people being judgy or something. No, let's cut that.
Okay.
Uh, so so a thing that the Paragon board is working on is recognizing, just going out and just being dedicated to the class. Obviously, working and trying to ultimately, like, one of the best things is just have fun with, because like your energy that you are doing this job that a lot of people just don't want to do because they want to go out and like, that energy will kind of be a little infectious. Hey, you're doing this rough job and you're doing it with a smile. That's going to catch some attention. And then beyond that, for a little more practical stuff, you work on understanding healer from every angle you can. Just dig into it and try to understand what you can do, what you have. And you have to work on passive casting for Paragon Healer while are uh, kind of going in more. You can be good, like really good at having class. You should at least be us and lot healers, myself included. It can be kind of hard going trying to use clearly not very aggressive kit. Uh, but then you work on pretty, like, if you happen to be good at that, like say you go from wizard and to healer, you are probably going to be really good at that aggressive side of it because you know how to apply that pressure. But then you have to understand the back line and what class, like, to prioritize who needs to be up and moving, and try to just keep your team running and playing the game as much as you can. You don't have to be deadlocked into things like pocket support, but it's a very good thing to learn, because especially if you get in something like a fighting company, it's very important to be able to do that kind of close-knit support, and just be within an arm's reach and help people. But the the biggest thing for standing out is just consistent work, and you just work on those little changes, and eventually people will notice. Just play cleanly, play consistently, particularly with a good attitude, and people are going to notice a bit faster. Because if you go out there and you stomp everyone with healer, they're going to be impressed by that, but be like, hey, could you work on that? But all that aside, we have more Paragon healers than ever before now. Like, we had just a very healthy surge of people taking this job on and not only doing good with it, but like going full Paragon with it. And it can be a really, healer can be a really thankless job with very little feedback, but we are looking to change that and really support the people who are supporting others in any part.
All right. What advice would you give someone who's just starting out as healer?
Just starting out, keep it simple. Just grab a stick, pick up heal and release, and whatever else you want to try. because you can dump your points into the very basics as you get comfortable. Healer is one that lets you play in the shallows and still make an impact. But if you're having a hard time with the incants, there's never any shame or printing them out, laminating them, something. I've still got undead minion on the back of my strap shield. That was a little rough to memorize.
What can a healer do to stand out to the circle of paragons?
So healer is one that has been historically harder to get noticed in. You're not up there being the propping everyone up, and since we've had this trying to work together and communicate and get more eyes on people dedicating and wanting to make sure that those people are still enjoying themselves and having fun. The way to pretty well getting noticed is whenever you find something that works. To quote my friend and company mate Milk, slow is smooth.
Have you ever taken an apprentice?
I actually recently took up an apprentice about a month ago. I took up Hawk from the Mire, and coincidentally, he also. So that was a very funny surprise where he came up and he asked me, "Hey, I really want to learn healer." I was like, "Hey, sure, let's work on this together, and we'll see how far we go with it." And then that night, he's like, "By the way, I'm in the Bell Tomb."
What are you working on now? What's your next Amtgard goal?
My next Amtgard goal is refining my healer, be the best darn healer I can, because sure, I've gotten Paragon Healer, but what does healer look like at like a Battle Master? Because I can still see there's so much room to grow and to apply.
Can people come up and ask you healer questions at events?
Oh, absolutely. I'm an open book in all things that I have knowledge of, and if nothing else, I'm happy to just be an open ear. I'm happy to talk shop or whatever, and I will help you to be better than me, because
Yeah.
I want people to enjoy healer.
Fantastic. Do you have any final advice before I turn you loose for the night?
My final advice will be: feel like burnout is starting to buy all break by like playing a different class for a little bit, for like a week or even a month, especially if you last thing you want to do your feet. Just this wonderful. Just give. At the end of the day, this is just pretend.
Well, a special thank you to Benatar for coming on the show tonight and talking to us about healer. We really appreciate you coming on, especially for the healer double feature. If you, the viewer, have made it to the end of this episode, please subscribe for more battle gaming content, and we will see you in the next video.